Hello and welcome to How to Win the Lottery 1990. Although, as we found out, maybe a little bit of 1989.
I think it still counts because it was released by... It was supposed to be released. It was prematurely released.
Do you remember, before we even say what book we're covering or who we are, there were times in the 90s when like there'd be like a video game that was just like in Toys R Us a week before it came out. We're like,
I don't remember that, but I remember when there was a frenzy for David Foster Wallace's book, The Pale King. That book was supposed to come out on a certain date, and then...
That's the posthumous one, right?
Yeah. And then Barnes & Noble got it like 2 weeks early, which is incredibly annoying and seems like a specific attempt to fuck independent booksellers. And I was ravenous for that book, and I waited it out. I waited the 2 weeks to go to Booktown, Manasquan Booktown.
Nice.
Because I was just like, that feels so unfair to me.
I think it was like Mortal Kombat 2 or 3. Like, again, like I wasn't buying because I didn't have money when I was like 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever. Also, probably should not have been playing Mortal Kombat, but that's neither here nor there.
It's fine.
But I remember it was like supposed to come out, and like my dad just like, oh yeah, they had it today. I was just like, what? The best thing in the world.
But what I want to talk to you about is the live version of Hail the Thief.
I haven't listened to it yet.
You haven't?
No.
Here's my it's great. It like as a reminder of how unhinged Radiohead is live, and how like Tom specifically is like a really volatile performer because his voice does all sorts of weird shit, and he's so like, I think, in the moment.
No, I've not listened to it yet because the book we're covering today, Vineland by Thomas Pynchon, I read it. I was just like, I don't understand most of that. And then I spent most of today re-listening to it, or listening for the first time on audiobook. So I basically listened to no music today, almost no music since that has come out, not even podcast. I'm just like, I got to figure out what's going on in this book. But yeah, so it's thumbs up.
Yeah, let me finish my thoughts on it, which are...
that was passive aggressive.
I think it was just regular aggressive.
Maybe just aggressive.
I think Hail to the Thief does not... I don't think any songs from Hail to the Thief make it onto the final Radiohead playlist. If you're making like a 45-minute long Radiohead playlist, I don't think a single song from Hail to the Thief makes it on there. Okay. With the exception of maybe 2 + 2 = 5. But I really only because that's a great opener. But I will say the live version, which lacks my song, Punch
Up at a Wedding.
Punch Up at a Wedding, has a...
Canonically the best Radiohead song.
Has a really great version of Go to Sleep.
Okay.
And you really like that song opens up. That's not one of my favorite songs on the album, but like live, it really opens up.
I'm curious. I'm going to look on Last FM, see which Radiohead song from...
Myxomatosis is also a great live song.
From that album I have listened to the most.
It better not be There, because if it is, you are a...
What's the one? Hold on. There's a song off King of Limbs, or maybe it is There. It might be There that they play at every single show.
It's Bloom from King of Limbs.
Is that the one?
I think so, yeah.
Like every time it came on, me and Tom were just like, all right, okay.
I don't know how you and Tom react to it, but
there was one where I'm just like, okay, like because it's the one where
Bloom,
where they're all drumming.
Yeah, I think they play There at every show too, though, because that's like a big that's a big drum intro song.
Okay, so off Hail to the Thief. My second most listened to album, apparently.
Yeah.
2 + 2 = 5.
That's the best song on the album.
Then Backdrifts, not on the re-release. Then Myxomatosis, then The Gloomy. It's basically just like I listen to this album straight through every single time.
Right. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And the connection here, obviously, is that Johnny Greenwood does the music for Paul Thomas Anderson's movies.
Of course.
Paul Thomas Anderson has adapted loosely Thomas Pynchon's novel Vineland.
Though set in current day.
They're set in current day, which I don't understand how that works. And
because this book is explicitly about 1984 reflecting back on 1964, kind of like or the time between like 64 and 84 or 70 and 84 or whatever. Like it almost does not make sense outside of that specific context.
Yeah. So I'll ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you like Pynchon?
So I was saying to you.
Okay. Well, the correct answer is no, but I like Ticklin.
Genuinely great.
All right, keep going.
I was saying to you that the issue I was having with this book. So the module is we're reading a book you selected from each year released in not set in those years, but released each year in the 90s.
Oh yeah, which reminds me, did you do any 1990 research?
I did not. Should I have?
I don't know. I thought it might be something that you would do, but
next time I'll do 1990 and I will do 1991.
Okay, your call. You don't have to.
I might. We'll see. I was saying to you that the issue that I had with this book was the only book of his that I've ever read, and the only adaptation of his work that I've ever seen is Inherent Vice.
Well, Inherent Vice is the only adaptation of his work that there's ever been.
Until this fall. Which is maybe out. Because this is our Halloween episode. Happy Halloween. What are you going for? What are you dressing for this year?
Oh, same thing as every year. Greg Louganis. That tickled you more than I thought it would.
So, I read Inherent Vice. I did not, in leading up to the movie, did not really understand it. Saw the movie, understood it more.
A little bit better, yeah.
Started rereading it, and I was like, oh, I get this now. Because it felt like reading it, seeing it, understanding where you go, and also like the point of that, for lack of a better description, the point of that is none of this shit matters.
Right.
Or at least one of the elements of that is just like, you're going to wind up where you started. This dog and pony show or whatever, this chase down to everything ultimately means nothing.
In Inherent Vice, you mean?
Yes.
In Inherent Vice, the movie drops the concept of zomes, which is like a really important part of the book, because a zome is a structure that is larger on the inside than it is on the outside.
House of Leaves thing.
And so in doing that, sort of ends the housing crisis in America, which is bad for real estate business.
Right.
And so like there is this entire anti-capitalist aspect of the book that disappears a little bit in the movie.
It's weird that like, so Paul Thomas, I was looking up the new movie, which is, what's the new movie
called?
One
Battle After Another.
And it's like, he's on record that he loves this book. He loves Vineland. And it's weird to me, and I would also assume he loves Inherent Vice to adapt that as well. Mm-hmm. It's weird that you like, I love this thing. Maybe it's not weird, because maybe it's the right way to approach it. But like, I love this thing, but I'm going to do my own thing with it. Where like, I don't know, he might have said it, I didn't look it up, but like, I love Inherent Vice. And it's like, but one of the main thrusts, I'm just not going to cover. Or here, it's like, I love this thing, but basically what makes it, we're not setting in 1980.
Yeah. It must be like when they told Mario Puzo that the pussy stuff wasn't going to be in The Godfather.
If you want in-depth analysis of that, there's a podcast on the network, Uncle Francis's Wine Cellar, that went deep into, like, they read the book and they talked about the book by chunks, and they spent a lot of time on the stuff in the book that is not in the movie, and I cannot believe.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
Also, Mario Puzo wrote the original Superman.
There's right. I think we talked about that screenwriting story about him. Yeah. But the thing, I know that Paul Thomas Anderson is also one of the people that knows Thomas Pynchon personally, which is very rare.
Is he still alive?
Yeah, he is. He's got a book coming out in October, actually.
Oh, I think I know that.
He's 88. You know who else has a book coming out in October? Is Mark Danielewski. It's a Western.
These two guys who love Insides Bigger Than Outsides.
Called Tom's Crossing.
Okay.
So who knows? Maybe in October we'll take a little detour and do like new books from.
Well, I will also say this episode releases Halloween, so like
it's
already past
so
that.
we won't do that. Never mind.
Also, we need to be ahead because I'm getting married in October. I'm already married by the time this comes out.
Yeah.
And we can't go backwards in time.
Yeah.
I mean, we could also do those and just like drop them in, whatever.
You've got to also give me all the information, all the passwords on how to upload this stuff in case you are murdered on your honeymoon.
Honeymoon's next year. This is the mini moon this year because we can't afford a wedding and a honeymoon. So we're just doing a little thing now.
Yeah. Well, the murder is the important part.
If I were murdered, would you keep going with this?
No.
I don't think so.
No. I don't know how to do any of this shit.
Yeah. Neither does Joe. So Too Fast would also
Maybe
die.
me and Joe would get together and...
What would you talk about with Joe? Now you know him.
We would just do Too Fast, Too Furious. I just slide into your spot. But none of us would know how to edit or... I assume he doesn't know how to edit. Does he know how to edit?
Of course not.
Or like any of the apparatus for release.
No.
Or anything like that.
So for years on the network, I manually updated everything. And I was just like, this is unsustainable. So we moved over to a thing that we paid money for and we automatically... But at that point, I'm just like... all of you are going to learn how to do this yourselves because I cannot be responsible for every show on the network. But for you and for Joe, I do it all. So
I would never know how to.
It would be very funny for you guys to just
even like in the thread sometimes when you guys like there will be something where I'm like, oh, this would be a really funny Photoshop.
Yeah.
Like I won't even do it because I don't know. Even if it's just like adding eyebrows to it, like extra thick eyebrows, I'm like, I won't do that. I can't. Like remember that one time that I made you add a fluorescent headband to Bud Dwyer's head just so that I could say Dwyer Straits. And I didn't know how to do it, so I made you do it for me.
And it worked.
Yeah, not a bad joke.
Still my all-time favorite. I mean, the best Photoshop you've asked for and gotten was Matt adding Mario Kart.
Oh, to Penny's,
To Penny's thing.
Yeah.
But my favorite one I did for you was not one you requested, but you in that picture looking like Unabomber and morphing into Unabomber. It was pretty good.
It was a great picture. Yeah. Put it in the show notes. Just kidding. Don't. My picture cannot be out there.
Your picture is out there irrevocably tied to this podcast in ways that I cannot remove, as is your name, and so it goes.
God damn it. Okay.
But October seems like a good month for people that we care about.
Yeah.
Authors that we care about.
Yeah. They'll be. I'm interested in those books. I'll read them as they come out.
So Vineland, though, I
let's get
really like the beginning. So the issue I was having and why I brought up Inherent Vice in the first place was having read Inherent Vice, having it be a Doc Sportello novel, having it be about this bumbling stoner character struggling to get through life, whatever. I was reading this as though it was going to be a Zoyd novel.
Yeah.
And maybe like 60 pages in, he disappears for a very long time.
For like 250 pages almost.
And I was, every single time like a new chapter would start or a new thing would go, I was like, oh, coming back.
Where's
and
Zoyd?
he doesn't.
He doesn't, yeah.
And so I think it's the same kind of issue I was having with, you know, when we did like the Nicolas Cage podcast or whatever. It's like, well, he's not the star of the movie, but we're still watching for him. And not knowing what this was, I'm like, I'm reading this the wrong way, but I don't know that I'm reading it the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
Where I should have been like, oh, this is a Frenesi thing, or it's just like about like, or counterculture, or whatever the main thrust of it is.
Yeah.
I was like, it's a Zoyd thing, because like firmly from the beginning, it's like, this is the main character. He's goofy.
Right.
He's
The
wacky.
first 20 pages are about him securing his disability check by throwing himself through a plate glass window.
What I will say, so I thought this book, I want to, I don't know at what speed I'm going to, but I'm going to finish rereading it via audiobook just to see. But I didn't love it, but I do think what is remarkable, like I really like the beginning because he is able to, Pynchon is able to create this world of like weirdness that is like our world, but like 2 dial clicks to the right or whatever.
Yeah.
And it feels so lived in and so authentic and interesting. And it's like, well, let's talk about how we get here. And just like, I don't want that. I want to be in this place where like TV is maybe like literally addictive and like that kind of thing, as opposed to like, there's like tubes and, you know, there's people institutionalizing others for having watched too much TV.
And
like,
the Thanatoid cult where it's like you're kind of dead, but also not. But those characters, that character was definitely assassinated, but he's back. He's alive now because he's a Thanatoid.
But instead he spends so much of the book like bouncing back and forth between like 64 and 70 and 84 and not ever really firmly establishing where we are or when we are or who these people are or if we should care about them or how they relate to someone we do care about.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really structurally strange novel. And that makes it hard to follow, especially because there's that dip in the middle, which gets really slow when you start learning about the vibrating palm technique. And
which is like, I was just like, oh, Kill Bill, kind of, but like slower acting than Kill Bill.
Yeah. And you learn all about, you know, 60s radicalism and, you know, all the stuff that it does share DNA with Inherent Vice, because what it essentially is about is a guy who cannot let go of the wonder of the 60s, even though the atmosphere of the novel is very cynical about those 60s, because it shows how anything that you thought was revolutionary was so tied up in counter-revolutionary stuff, because they were all like any revolution. I actually read 3 books back to back that were all about this, which is just
by design or just accidentally?
No, just accidentally. So I read Durf Backdurf's Kent State, 4 Dead in Ohio, the graphic novel about the kids being shot in Ohio.
Yep.
And that, like, he goes into detail about how there were like so many counter-revolutionaries like embedded within the SDS, and how like some of the worst acts of terrorism in the 60s were actually done by the CIA.
Sure.
Because they were just like Like there would be all of these people who would just be like, yeah, we're going to go to the protest and we're going to bring our signs and we're going to make sure that our voices are heard. And then some guy that was just in the CIA would be like, what if we also brought a bomb?
Right.
Like that. And that's so frequent that happens because he's just like trying to destabilize what was a certain type of movement. And then like later on you learn that like the weathermen like Bernardine Dorn and Bill Ayers and Mark Rudd and those guys who did acts of terrorism could not be prosecuted for acts of terrorism because COINTELPRO did such illegal things to entrap them and catch them that it was just like, oh, literally, like we know that these people bombed buildings, but like none of the evidence is admissible because of the way that you went about gathering it. And so like I read that book, and then I read Rachel Kushner's book Creation Lake, which is about essentially like an informant who is embedding herself into leftist radical groups in France and trying to get them to assassinate a politician. And then I read this, and it's so the Rachel Kushner book is contemporary. It's not in the 60s, but it's still like that leftism always has a feel of the 60s to me. Pynchon is, I think, like there's nobody that I would rather have write a book about the death of the 60s, because I think that he does seem to be a true believer in like whatever hippiedom is, but he also has this like unvarnished view of it where he's cynical enough and paranoid enough to recognize all of the bad stuff about them. And especially like in this book, he recognizes, because this book takes place in 1984, the first year of Ronald Reagan's presidency. And the 60s were so damaging to America. I mean, hippies in particular were so damaging to America because of, stop me if I've done this rant before, but like in the early 60s and the mid 60s, there was the New Left, and the New Left built up a coalition among students and Black Panthers and other radical groups that were like looking to institute structural systemic change. And then hippies came along, and this is largely like ideologically from people like Timothy Leary, whose philosophy was turn on, tune in, drop out, which became about things like drugs and free love, which are like vices. Those are like hedonistic pleasures, and it became about less about solidarity and more about seeking individual pleasure, which is specifically not collectivist or leftist in action. And what that does is that leads you straight to consumer capitalism and like Reaganite 80s, because that fulfills all of those vices really, really well. Because when all those people start having disposable income in the 80s, because they were whatever, they grew up and they became
they had jobs or whatever.
They had jobs, and they became yuppies or whatever. Yuppies. They like the pipeline from yippie to yuppie is the Jerry Rubin thing, right? Yippie was Jerry Rubin and Abby Hoffman, the Youth International Party from the 60s. And then the 80s, you have yuppies, which are young urban professionals. So there's the yippie to yuppie pipeline. And you have sort of Reaganomics and consumer capitalism, which is seeking to fulfill all of these individual desires and doesn't look at collective, like the collective will and the collective well-being of the people at all. And so like the 80s, and people like old leftists hate this, but if you had boomer parents, right, there is a really good chance that your boomer parents were like 60s hippies and 60s radicals. And then by the time the 80s came around, they were Republicans.
I think it's probably true of my parents.
Yeah, that's like, because like the 80s showed you that like actually like the end point of this vision of the hippie vision is going to the mall and is like buying like a Beamer, a convertible.
Right.
It's not like making sure that like the wage gap is lessened. It's not about making sure that Black people have all the rights of white people. And it's certainly not like free love is like the great like lie of the 60s, because really what that like allowed was for men to fuck around and then women get stuck with children and had to raise the kids on their own. Right. Because they would be like, it's so easy to be like, oh, you're not cool. Like I can't, if you're like bagging on me for like wanting me to stay home and raise the kids with you. Like, that's uncool. You're not being like the cool hippie that I thought you were. I'm out of here. So like, I think Pynchon really like nails the, that movement with a character like Furnessy, who like is this radical, but is also like entirely dependent on her hedonistic relationship to Brock Vond. Like, she needs to fulfill that carnal desire.
Right.
She seems completely helpless against it. And like, I think you could ding Pynchon for like not being a cool feminist in this book, for just one thing that you could ding him on.
Well, I think that there is something very interesting to me about like seemingly all these people, like, well, clearly Zoyd is like fish out of water in the 80s. Like, man, I wish things were the way that they were, still are the way they were, whatever. Where he's like, it used to be easy to like do this thing, and now they have like even little like they have like breakthrough windows where I can't even like do my thing anymore.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Like
Everything is inauthentic.
change. And yet he is also like relying upon the system. He's relying upon the man to like get by or whatever. And there's like this interesting thing where it's like, you feel like he shouldn't like the government, but relies on the government. And there's like different, like the people who, or also he's thought, like, I think there's the part early on where he's like, he's acting as an informant and like trying to help, or like he's getting pinched and has to help. But every time he's like about to narc on somebody, just like, actually they're kind of cool and I don't want to narc on them. And it's a thing where it's like this contradiction within him where it seems like he should hate that about other people, but he is that, but also he like rebuts that or refutes that. Or like Furnessy, I think it's Furnessy, or maybe it's her mom, where they use her as like a sexual slave to like extract information from people, right? Like, is that
Furnessy, yeah.
And so there's that, because you're saying she's like this radical counterculture person, but also like literally being used by the government to like further their cause. And there's something,
which by the way is there's all sorts of people that are like Gloria Steinem was a CIA asset, right? Gloria Steinem is this like towering figure in feminism and is incredibly important, but was also snitching on people, right? So that exists across all of those years.
And so I think it's interesting to see that now, but I just don't know. And I guess what he is doing is saying like, look where we are, but like, let's see how we got here or something, or like the evolution. But like, that's less interesting to me. I kind of want to just see the current day, modern day stuff.
Right.
But I also don't like, I don't like, hold it against him that he wants to like explore the history of that, but it feels unnecessary and uninteresting to me.
I'm with you entirely. Okay. I think the middle of this book sags really heavily, and I think it picks back up once we get back into like the actual stuff with Hector and Brock Vond and the like the family reunion and the end of the book.
But then literally, and I had to look up on Wikipedia, I'm just like, wait, hold on. Like at the end, they're just like, oh yeah, we're not gonna do this anymore. They're just like, the government just like changes their mind. It's like, we're actually not gonna,
because the government runs out of money, or the public runs out of interest in the war on drugs, and so the government runs out of money, and so literally, like as Brock Vond is dangling from the helicopter about to pick up Prairie, they're like,
we're gonna
sorry, like bring that helicopter in, funding's cut, you're done for, which is the most unrealistic part because
it would never
Ronald
happen
Reagan would never,
or whatever. Yes,
would never have stopped the war on drugs.
Right. But I was like, hold on, did I just like read what I think I read? And because it's almost, again, this is something that I think speaks to my like need to be a better critical reader, but like stuff like that feels like it almost reads like an afterthought, because it's not like it builds this moment, just sort of it just happens, and it's like, oh, like it feels like it's written like an afterthought, even though,
or it's a bit of a Deus Ex Machina, right? It's like, what the
right.
There's no hint that this is going to happen at any point throughout the rest of the book. It's just something that happens conveniently plot wise.
Yep. So we spent more time on this. There's two things we talk about on the show more than anything else: language and lack of endings. And it feels like that is sort of like a lack of ending, but it's also frustrating because it is also, it's not a satisfying lack of an ending.
Well, I disagree about the lack of an ending here, because I think the actual ending is Prairie going back out there to find Brock Vond because she wants him to take her, because she believes that he's her father.
Right.
Which is another thing that is like kind of about, I think you could read this in again another pretty anti-feminist way, where it's like this little girl needs like a solid father figure that she's going to walk away with. But you can also just read it as like the counterculture like still fetishizes that idea of structure and order. And like a 14-year-old girl is going to look at like this governmental father figure who has his shit together, or at least he clearly doesn't have his shit together, but like has the appearance, like the suit wearing appearance of all that structure. Like that's a much more appealing father than Zoyd, who she can't, almost fundamentally can't respect because he's just like a layabout and gets his money through like jumping through glass windows. Like she's not, so she needs Brock in her life because Brock's going to provide her with structure, which is weirdly, I could be wrong. Someone please write in to tell me your take on that. That's my take on it. I think there really might be like a much broader idea there that I'm missing.
Well, so my question to you then, with this in mind, is if somebody was reading this for the first time, would you, and like they were looking like, who is this about? Do you think this is more like, should you follow Frenesi as the main character? Or should you follow Prairie?
I think Prairie's the main character. Yeah.
Because I said to you, like when we were texting the other day, I think you had just finished and I was about halfway through. And I was like, so far it just feels like, because I was in the middle of the slog, and it just feels like it's a girl looking for her mom. And then all of a sudden, like it doesn't become about that, and then sort of becomes about that again, although not really. So it is feel like Prairie. But also in the beginning, when you're introduced to Prairie, it's so Prairie through the eyes of Zoyd,
right,
that you don't realize how important she's going to become in the narrative, even though maybe you could assume that, or I don't know.
Yeah, I think you don't really ever get as much of Prairie through the eyes of Prairie as you might need for this book. You get Prairie through the eyes of Zoyd. You get Prairie, like Prairie's the recipient of the stories about her mother. She's also
14, right? So it's maybe hard for a guy who is currently 88, and you know,
in 1990
he would have been 53 to write the perspective of a 14-year-old girl.
Yeah,
but
you know what's weird about Pynchon is, so he wrote V comes out, and then he writes Crying of Law 49.
This is a very dumb question, but this is unrelated to the alien thing, right? Not the alien V.
No, it's not the alien V.
Okay.
V is his first novel.
Okay.
And then Crying of Law 49 comes out, and Crying of Law 49 is, a lot of people think of it as his best book.
It's also pretty short.
It's only 150 pages. So I think maybe some people who think of it as his best book think of it as they like it because it's easier to digest than some of his other stuff. But when Crying of Law 49 comes out, he says something along the lines of like, I'm working on 3 books right now. If one of them comes out even close to the way that I think it will come out, it's going to be the book of the century.
Whoa.
And he's talking about Gravity's Rainbow there, and that might be the book of the century. But it's like, what are the other books that he's talking about? Because he goes from V to Crying of Law 49 to Gravity's Rainbow. Can you pull up his Wikipedia just so that you have the order?
So V is 63, then 3 years later is Crying of Law 49 in 1966.
Yeah.
Then 7 years later, Gravity's Rainbow comes out.
Right, and then there's a huge gap.
11 years later, there was a collection of previously published short stories.
We're not going to count that.
So then there's 17 years between Gravity's Rainbow and Vineland.
Right, which I don't think that's one of the 3 books that he's talking about.
And then another 7 years till Mason and Dixon comes out.
That's definitely one of the ones that he's talking about.
Then another 9 years. So that's also 24 years after Gravity's Rainbow comes out, and also 31 years after Crying of Law 49 comes out.
And then after that,
9 years later, Against the Day,
which is his longest book, which is like 1,200 pages long and is insane.
And then he's like sort of like this feels like Malik, which is like I do one movie
that's
a decade,
exactly
all of a sudden it's just like I'm doing
that's exactly,
a movie a year.
That's exactly what it is.
3 years later comes out Inherent Vice. 4 years after that comes out Bleeding Edge, and then like you said, the next one is coming out. Out now. By the time this comes out, Shadow Ticket in 2025.
Yeah, so he has this really weird thing where he's working on these multiple books at the same time, and they're developing at a pace of decades. So it's like you don't know, like whatever thematic stuff he's juggling in his head and whatever cross-pollination is going on there is really weird to think about and hard to like imagine.
But we were also saying that you think, and again, my only reference point again is Inherent Vice, but it feels like you were saying before we started recording, that almost feels like his attempt to do this better or do this more coherently, even though that is, again, difficult to parse and strange and trippy and whatever. But it's more coherent.
His Inherent Vice is his easiest book.
Which is wild.
Easily his easiest book. And then I would say Vineland, or maybe Crying of Law 49 is his second easiest.
Yeah, I don't know that this is like difficult. Like the issue that I had with this, or one of the issues that I had with this, is the issue that I have with a lot of books where like as soon as I start like losing the plot, it's like compounding difficulty from then on. Like I should at that point like go back and like reread a thing or like start over or whatever. But I'm just like I'm gonna keep going and like maybe it's gonna pick back up, and it didn't, and I felt lost. But
yeah, it's not like a structured it's so like Shaggy Dog that like,
which is not a bad thing, but also
it's
when I'm wondering, is this important? And the answer to a lot of it is not really.
Right.
It's difficult, but not in a difficult way that I always complain about things are difficult. It's like, well, then why are we here? Because it's not like it's short. It's not like it's long, but it's not like it's short. Like 400 pages is like you could trim this a bit.
It's so strange. Pynchon is the only. No, he's not the only person, because like William Gaddis does this too. William Gaddis is a character in a book. Like William Gaddis is one of the greatest novelists in the history of America. And he's got this book about art forgery called The Recognitions. It was his first book. Some people could argue that it's the best book of the 20th century, but he's got a character in that book called Rectal Brown. And it's like Pynchon does this too, where he is tackling these enormous themes that are so dense and so like the idea of like the structure of American politics and the ways in which the oppressed classes are taught to fight against themselves and to never really strive for what they deserve. And it's intentional. He intentionally undermines it with really goofy Looney Tunes imagery and silly songs and like very, very broad racial stereotypes. And
this is Gaddis now, or this
is
Pynchon?
Pynchon.
Oh, yeah.
And like it's really strange, but it works because maybe the only way to like approach something, not the only way, but like maybe a really effective way to approach something so serious is to do it through like cartooning.
Well, I feel like the alternative to that would be if you, in a world where like there's like this college of hippies that secedes and becomes a thing, and like there's like this crazy, it's like the world you know, but it's not the world you know, or whatever, right? I think if you're not elevating everything else, it almost comes across as like Blade Runner, like hard sci-fi, where it's like this is the world you know, but like everything's so grounded and real. It's like, well, that's not the world that I want.
Yeah, I'd rather have a sovereign nation in the middle of California called the People's Republic of Rock and Roll.
Yeah.
That like the government is taking seriously enough that they have to assassinate the leader of and the college is the College of Surf.
Yeah. So like both this, this heightened Vineland thing and also something like Blade Runner can like both equally comment on whatever they want to comment on as art, but also it's like, this is the book to read, to smoke weed and read, man. Like it just feels like it's a different thing.
He's also got it is a little bit off topic, but his last book, The Bleeding Edge, is a 9/11 book, but it's also a book that's like largely about computers and the internet.
Okay.
And again, he's like fucking 80 years old when he wrote it.
Right.
Or when it came out. It's like, how many 80-year-olds know anything about the internet?
Right. Is it good?
Yeah.
Had you read this before?
Yeah. I've read all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good. It's not like his best, but it's good, and it's really, really well researched and really like well thought out.
It would have been really funny to do that in our internet module. It's like, this is Darcy, this is B.R. Yeager, it's Thomas Pynchon. It's like, hold on, what?
We could do it. We could do it in a 9/11 novel, a 9/11 module. Does that sound like too much of a downer?
Probably.
There are a lot of good 9/11 books, though.
There is a 9/12 first responder movie that's about to come out or about to be like greenlit, starring Jeremy Strong. If you want a Jeremy Strong-led first responder movie about 9/12, I think called 9/12.
That was the name of the Glenn Beck's thing, where he was like,
like the birth of a new nation.
Yeah, he was like trying to get America back to the feeling that we all felt on 9/12 when we were all coming together and we unified as Americans to. I don't know. What I can tell you is that I went to a tattoo convention on, I don't know, 9/20, 9/22. And there were mad people with like tattoos of Arabs with crosshairs around their heads.
Sweet.
And stuff like that. It was not pleasant at all. It was like that was an awful environment. Fuck Glenn Beck.
Well, it does feel like in a time where like either side of the aisle is just like, oh, people on the other side agree with me now. Like this is this is the dawning of a new day.
Yeah.
Or like centrists or whatever, like slight left, or like, you know, maybe we should.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think knowing, again, the framing that I have now, that it is not a Zoyd novel, that it is about, because like it always feels like it's going to be about, it's supposed to be about Frenzy, but like it also feels about her through him, like, or maybe that's just the way that I was reading it, or because like the way that we were introduced to the novel and to the world is through him. And even though there's so much, like, very clearly not that far into the book, it's like he's taken a back seat, at least for now. My brain should have moved on, but I think having the proper read of it. But there's also stuff like, I like the Isaiah 2:4, like there's like,
he calls him R2D2.
There's stuff where it's like, okay, so he's got this like punk band and they're playing this Italian wedding, and like it's all like cool and got good imagery, but it's also like, is this about things? It's
also very much as Pynchon can write about the internet, like the vomitones. Like his view of punk rock is very much that of like a hippie guy who has grown up and is like now, and they've got their spiky hair, and he's not being judgmental of them. He kind of thinks that's cool, but he's also it's very stupid. His view of it is an old man's view.
I mean, he should just do what he knows best, which is the 60s, I guess, and not the 80s, but also maybe the 80s to comment on the 60s. I don't know.
Yeah, I think a weird thing that happens with him, because he is quote unquote reclusive. I don't think he's reclusive. He just, as he said on that episode of The Simpsons that I'm sure you watched, reclusive is just a code for someone who doesn't like to talk to reporters.
Oh, that's where Pynchon is always on that brown paper bag over his head, right? Is that him?
Yeah. Yeah, mm-hmm. He's like signing his cookbook, The Crying of Lotka 49.
Mm-hmm. You know, they're not to plug Disney Plus, a wholly owned subsidiary, which means they own nothing. But Disney Plus has they have the channels where you can just watch things, and they had like every Simpsons ever going, and then they had all just Homer centric episodes, pretty good. We're currently, because we're recording in August, again releasing in October, they're doing all back to school episodes. So it's all just like school, like things where like they're at Springfield Elementary. I'm like, this is pretty cool. Like even like
Lisa's Crush.
I mean, I was today when I had it on, it was like season 20 and 22 and stuff like that. So it's like stuff you will never see.
I'll never watch.
But it's like, it's a cool theme to just like throw it on and be like, oh, here's all school episodes or whatever. I'm looking up Shadow Ticket. Shadow Ticket sounds interesting. Do you know what it's about? Do you remember?
I know vaguely what it's about, but you know,
set in 1932, so before he was born, but barely.
Right. I mean, Against the Day is set in 1895. You know, Mason and Dixon is obviously set in the
1860s.
Yeah, whenever they wrote the.
Or is it about Rocky Balboa fighting Mason the Lion Dixon in 2006's Rocky Balboa?
About that.
But it's set in 1932, centers on a Milwaukee private investigator set adrift in Hungary while tracking the heiress to a Wisconsin cheese fortune. It's a great logline.
Yeah, it'll be weird. There will be stupid songs, and there will be some like physics experiment in it. There will be some supernatural stuff that doesn't make sense. There will be like a weird worm.
You need guys like this out here, man, taking swings.
No, he's amazing. I remember I was in my MFA program, and you had to write letters to agents, and they ask, like, when an agent came to our class and gave us the template for writing a letter to agents, and within there you were supposed to say, like, you're supposed to compare your work to a living author. And it's very stupid because you go around the room and you listen to all these people that are saying, compare who their work is to. And I was like, I'm going to shoot for the moon. I'm just going to say Pynchon. And so I said it. And the guy, the agent, just like, you compared yourself to Pynchon. And then he gave me a speech. And he was like, honestly, this is not a good move. And I'll tell you why. If Pynchon did not already have a National Book Award and were not represented by Melanie Jackson, who is one of the most powerful agents in New York, and if he didn't have decades behind him, nobody would publish a Thomas Pynchon novel.
Yeah.
There's no way any of these books would get published.
Well, it feels like that's the kind of thing you see like in movies a lot, where just like only this old white guy can do it because like he has this established track record. Like even if it doesn't make sense, even if it's not good, people will still go see it, or people will still buy it and read it, or whatever.
Essentially, Pynchon keeps writing Megalopolis. Like every one of his books is Megalopolis. And you're just like, how? Okay. but it doesn't have a budget because it's a book.
Right. But there's still a budget in terms of printing and pressing and
right. But
promotion.
it's not any more of a budget than any other book.
Correct. Yeah.
So he's not spending $120 million of his own money to have it made. But he's being a weirdo.
But he also like spent 12 years of his life maybe writing this book, right?
Yeah.
So like that's even maybe more valuable, although Megalopolis took 30 years to make or whatever.
Yeah.
That's cool though. I mean,
it is cool. Yeah, he rules. He's the best. I will be super sad when he dies.
Are there other tips you would give me or anybody, but me specifically?
Yeah.
In either rereading this or reading books like this in terms of losing the hold on the plot or not knowing what to focus on or who to focus on and feeling adrift in the middle of a thing. Like when I'm 200 pages in and I'm like, okay, I have the first like 70-ish pages. That's also like what didn't help about me re-listening. Because like what I re-listened to today is basically the stuff that I pretty much grasped. Like by the time you came over, I was like getting into the like, this is where I get a little like loosey-goosey with understanding.
Yeah. But because we did right now, we have not talked about DL at all. We have not talked about the Japanese guy whose name I forget.
Takeshi?
Is his name Takeshi?
There's a Takeshi in the book.
Yeah, who is DL's boyfriend-ish.
Mm-hmm. What I also found was interesting, and maybe this is not a reflection on anything other than a lazy Wikipedia audience, is I would assume a book like this would, on the Wikipedia listing, have a characters section. It does not.
Yeah, I don't know.
But like it feels like, oh, like you need to know like Prairie is this and the relationship to this. And like there's other sites that do that, but it feels like of a book of this magnitude or an author this hyped or beloved or whatever, the page would be like, well, here's like critical analyses and here's like, maybe that's not what book, but like things where it's like, this is basically the background to understanding this, and they don't have that. So it almost feels like me like even Wikipedia doesn't like really get what's going on here. But what would you say in terms of rereading this specific novel or reading a novel like this where
if you get lost in the middle,
comprehension is difficult? Should you start over? Should you like read just forge through?
Yeah, I say stop worrying about comprehension and start thinking about it in terms of language and character, and don't worry so much about like the plot for plot beats, and just look for moments, beautiful moments of language or interactions between characters that are emotional or images that strike you. There are a couple of things in this book that image-wise struck me really hard. And some of them were real pynchon perv shit. Like there's a part with Fernesi where he's talking about her being naked, and he conjures this image that would have never occurred to me in a million years. But he says something like, if you were looking at her through an infrared camera, only her nipples and cunt would be visible. And it's just like, that is such a weird thing to think about. Mm-hmm. Like to conjure up that image and have that be the way that you want to describe a naked woman is so strange. But it's also kind of like that image gets the job done. Like you know exactly what he's talking about when he says that.
There was a thing completely at the other end of the spectrum from that, but at the very end, like literally 9 pages from the end, where they're talking about Paul McCartney playing Kevin McHale in a Celtics biopic. That's like an ongoing joke throughout the book, because it's also a thing. Does it say Paul McCartney in the Kevin McHale story? It says, to be fair, the producers had tried their best to make the Celtics look good. Besides Sidney Poitier as Casey Jones, there's Paul McCartney in his first acting role as Kevin McHale, Sean Penn as Larry Bird. On the Lakers side was Lou Gossett Jr. as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Sean
Penn is good casting as young Larry Bird.
Michael Douglas as Pat Riley, and Jack Nicholson as himself, which is so funny.
That's a good cast. But there's also like it says like Sean Connery in the G. Gordon Liddy story. There's a bunch of biopics.
Well, what I also do like, I mean, and also maybe that's just my bias and like being a movie boy, but I love the like Return of the Jedi shot here and like change the town forever. Like people like that just fundamentally changed the way that people thought about this. And then whether that is tied to the tube addiction or not, probably, but so much of it, especially early on, especially I think maybe the Zoyd stuff is just like referring to like when that boyfriend of yours showed up to my house looking like Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th, parentheses, 1980. It's just like I love that the specific like whatever of that, and that sort of goes away. But then it does come back in stuff like that where it's like people are still obsessed with this in a way that feels earned and real. In like we talk about that stuff all the time. You know what I mean? Like it feels like that feels natural. It
also very much signifies the area, because if you've never been to the Pacific Northwest. And
Would you consider Northern California Pacific Northwest?
I guess so. But yeah.
Okay.
People from the Pacific Northwest might disagree. But Northern California is very much a specific thing.
Well, also like the redwoods, like it does sort of bleed up there.
If you've seen Return of the Jedi, you can picture it.
Yep.
That is, it's like such a commonplace signifier for a thing that you might not. I mean, you might not know that that's Northern California, but if you were in Northern California, you would be like, "This fucking looks like Return of the Jedi."
Yeah.
It feels like a really obvious way, especially in a book that's about, at least partially, about the way that we sort of hand our consciousness over to pop culture.
I do like it though. The other thing, and this is off topic, but as we're watching Alien Earth, which just debuted this week as we're recording this episode, it does this thing that what I want something to do would never work. But this show is set, 100 years in the future, or, it's 2120. And they're still like 1977, Reggie Jackson. I'm like, no, I want you to tell me about like some 2080 like Zoyd ball, like superstar that like Reggie Jackson means something to us when they're watching, these Disney animated things from the 40s mean something to them because like whatever, right? But it's like, or it means something to Noah Hawley or someone on the set or whoever wrote that part of that scene. But it's like, are we to believe that in 150 years, Reggie Jackson still has like cultural cachet?
Maybe we're 100 years past Babe Ruth and he's still,
I guess so.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I don't know, but it's funny, this screenshot that's going around on the internet. That's like, I can't believe this is a real frame from Alien Earth.
Oh, which one is it?
It's a picture of the lead girl, Kyle Chandler's daughter, Sydney Chandler, I think her name is. Mm-hmm. And it's her face. And then there's the screen in front of her. And there's the little like animated guy from Ice Age. Yeah. Like a reflection of him on the thing. And people context free are just like on Twitter, like, what could this show possibly be?
Yeah. The Fury and the Furry. Yeah, that's funny.
Are you excited for one battle after another after reading the book?
The book doesn't impact my excitement. Like a new
Paul Thomas Anderson movie is just
going to be cool. A new Leo movie because like they work well, right? Like it looks interesting. I don't know it not being a direct faithful adaptation, which I don't know that I would want.
Right.
Seems like it doesn't really matter if you've read the book or not. But also like if there's like a Zoyd, is he playing a character named Zoyd? Do we know?
He's playing a character named Bob.
I have a friend named Bob.
Yeah, Takayo.
When their evil enemy resurfaces after 16 years, a group of ex-revolutionaries reunite to rescue one of their own's daughter. So it does feel like sort of like yeah. Oh, Wood Harris in it.
My guess is that Sean Penn is playing the Brock Vaughn character, Stephen Lockjaw or something like that.
So on IMDb, nobody has character names.
Okay. I think Tiana Taylor is playing the Fernesi role.
One battle after another. Let's see here. Not that it matters. Sean Penn is Lockjaw. Regina Hall is Deandra. Chase Infinity plays...
Probably Prairie.
Yeah, Willa Ferguson, Beverly Hills. Tiana Taylor is Perfidia, Beverly Hills.
Yeah. So I think Tiana Taylor is the Fernesi role.
And Chase Infinity is the daughter.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it'll be great. I think
all of his movies are great. Like that's just what that guy does.
Yeah, I think it'll be good. I'm looking forward to it a lot. Anything else?
Egg's email?
Yeah, let's hear from Egg.
We have an email address, lottery@cageclub.me. Email in about this book, any book, we will read.
I would actually really love to hear from people about the ending of this book and what they thought of it and whether or not I completely biffed it.
I did tell you today that I was self-conscious and I feel like I know that we're doing this for us and not for other people, but I feel guilty about a thing. And I feel like we got some, not blowback, but people who like really love Infinite Jest who found that episode. And they're like, you got this wrong.
Who cares?
I know, but it's also like people are like, oh, I fucking love Pynchon. I love violin. Let's see what this like. I listen to every podcast that puts out an episode about any Pynchon album to listen to.
Well, that's the thing is that this might attract those people because he's got that kind of.
And I finished the book this morning. I'm just like, I can't have a conversation about it. And you said it's okay. Sometimes it's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine to not know stuff or not understand stuff or not have a take on something.
I'd rather read books like this and not get it than like read like.
Prep?
No, I'm putting my past self on blast. 60 Dean Koontz books in a row.
That's a lot of Dean Koontz books in a row.
He's good though, man. He loves dogs.
One day we're going to read Intensity for this podcast.
It's his best book.
Yeah.
My first book I read of his was Velocity, very similarly named.
Kristen likes Intensity. That's how I know about it, because Kristen was like, this Dean Koontz book is really good. And like, that's not the type of thing that she would, I don't know. It's so outside of the realm of her taste that it makes me curious about
There
it.
is a thing that with him, and I don't know that this is something that like, Stephen King did, but like it feels for whatever reason, maybe he just got older and softer, that like earlier stuff is like meaner. It always feels like he's sort of a PG-13 version of Stephen King, where it's like not as violent, not as language, whatever. But he gets especially soft and mushy as he gets older. It's like, it's dark and creepy, but like also that dog is going to save the day or whatever. Just like, But like stuff like Intensity, from what I remember from reading the stuff in high school, he's like, oh, this is actually like a real thriller.
I mean, one of the things that I like about Stephen King is that he'll kill the baby. Like he will, like there's nobody in Stephen King novels is actually safe from anything.
Right.
So you actually have to be like, oh, this is, I feel a real danger on a page-to-page basis.
He's still putting out a book or two a year?
Yeah, I think so.
Lottery@cageclub.me. Email in about this book or any book, any pynchon. Shreds has read them all. Meg's reaction to Vineland. Also not Vineland, New Jersey. There's a Vineland, New Jersey.
There?
Yeah, down by the Pine Barrens, like South Jersey somewhere, like 3 hours from here.
Pine Barrens rule.
I wish I had more time to write this email because I'm still trying to marinate on everything, but I'm running out of time, so it'll be a short one.
Okay.
I feel like I understand Shreds a little better after having read this. It's hard to articulate, but it feels like this could have been a formative book for him.
Okay.
Is that true at all?
I first read it in 2007, 2006, 2007.
When you were 12 years old.
when I was a baby. So I don't know if I would call it formative. I'm interested to hear what the Eggster has to say about this.
Parts of this book are incredibly funny and witty. I think that half of my quotes are just phrases I was impressed by. For example, quote, "In the building's penumbra, not even breathing hard, so elegantly that you couldn't say jimmied. She more like James'd, the side door locked with a needle of antique ivory the sensei had given her long ago."
Yeah, I agree. Pynchon is really good at that sort of shit.
I also loved all the Star Trek references. Of course you would.
Yeah.
There's a scene where Prairie pronounces better as bet-or, and the book says that she pronounced it like Mr. Spock.
Mm-hmm.
In Star Trek, Leonard Nimoy pronounced censors as sense-ors because he didn't want his Boston accent to come through. But like, without the context, Pynchon's line doesn't mean anything. I found those kinds of moments, the ones where I understood the reference, to be incredibly satisfying.
Yeah, I think that's a thing. For sure.
All in all, a book I'm sure would benefit from rereading, but something I probably won't do unless the pod covers it again.
Or we probably won't cover it again. I will have a personal, private conversation with Meg about why she thinks it's a formative book for me.
Would we ever do a season of rereading books?
Sure.
How many books in do you think we have to be before we do that?
We could do a season of books that we got wrong. Books people were angry at us about. So Wittgenstein's Mistress, Infinite Jest.
Oh. This is a difficult season.
Yeah. Well, books that we got wrong is going to be difficult stuff, I think.
This is, do you want to guess how many books, I think I told you recently, how many books, including this one, we've covered so far on the podcast?
112.
118.
Wow.
A lot of books. More than most people read in a lifetime.
Yeah, that's true more and more all the time.
Just keep reading.
I'm on a real streak, by the way. I've read so many books this year. And like in the last 2 months, because it's summer vacation for me, I've been reading like 150, 200 pages a day.
Yeah, as we drove to Cleveland, you're like, I'm going to read 10 pages an hour.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that bad, but you did read like 40 pages on the way there and like 20 on the way back.
Yeah.
And you finished an entire book
I
while you were
finished
gone.
an entire book while on Joey's bachelor party trip.
As we're just like watching F1 in the living room, you're like lying in the bed reading a book that you didn't even really like.
It was not great. It was not great.
You're dedicated to the craft, man.
Yeah. You gotta get your reps in, so that your brain doesn't go weak.
Just keep reading.
Today's crime is, it's hacking, but it's specifically hacking data centers that have biological information about people. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like 23andMe.
Theme song.